Now, hello again. Remember what I said last video? Will be our start. Anyways, hello. We're just gonna get on with ghosts in the paranormal. Now, this is a picture of a little boy looking outwards. I don't really need to tell you about what he's doing, because honestly, you can see. This is of Borley Rectory, Essex, in the United Kingdom. It's Britain. Now, Borley Rectory stood beside the village's pretty country church and churchyard. The church has also laid claims to ghostly goings-on, but nothing compared to its neighbour. In 1955, a little girl peers down the path in the garden of the abandoned rectory, where a nun has frequently been seen searching for her lover. Now, here's an interesting fact. During the fire that finally destroyed Borley Rectory, an onlooker saw the face of a nun gazing from a window. Now there is something about rectories and their long histories that make them intriguing buildings. This one in East England takes the prize as the creepiest of them all, and for a long time it enjoyed the chilling distinction of being called the most haunted house in England. Now, I don't think it's a house, because obviously it's a church, but it could still be classed as a house. Now, the small village of Borley lies just on the Essex side of the Essex-Suffolk border. The rectory was built back in 1863, but centuries earlier there had been a monastery on that side, and it was there that the troubles began. One of the monks is said to have fallen in love with a nun from the local nunnery. They planned to run away, abandoning their religious vows, but they were caught. The penalty for their love was death, and a grim one at that. The monk was hanged in the monastery, while the nun was sealed up alive in its walls in the 19th century. She was seen many times walking desperately through the grounds of the rectory, searching for her lover. The spectral appearances became much more threatening after the death of the first rector, Reverend Harry Bull. His children fled the house after seeing a ghostly horse-drawn carriage chasing the nun across the garden. But for the Reverend Eric Smith, who moved in next, there was worse to come. In 1928, he contacted a national newspaper to report mysterious footsteps, doorbells ringing of their own accord, and other unexplained sounds. The newspaper sent Harry Price, a paranormal investigator, on his very first night. He saw a spectral figure in the garden, and then, suddenly, a pane of glass crashed out of the porch window and smashed to the ground. As he went inside, a red vase from an upstairs sitting room flew past him down the stairs and smashed into the hall. Reverend Smith tried to exorcise the property, but the unquiet spirits refused to leave, so he and his wife eventually left the house for good. The Foysters were the next inhabitants. They suffered 5 years of the same violent torment. One terrible night, Miss Foyster was even thrown out of her bed by an unseen force. When they could stand no more, they left. Harry Price moved back in. In 1938, he held a seance to contact the spirits. A message tapped on the walls said the house would burn to the ground that night. Next morning, the rectory still stood, but a year later, a lamp overturned and a devastating fire destroyed the whole house. Now, I know I'm reading fast. I just want to be able to let you listen. Now, this next one. Say there's a house there. One tragedy after another befell the residents of the Monte Cristo homestead. Young Morris screams Young Morris's screams are said to resonate around the stables where he died in the fire. Now, Monte Cristo Homestead, Australia. Stories of the hauntings and the horror are to be found in all corners of the world. In New South Wales, Australia, one house in the town of Junee has a very dark history indeed. So dark that it is widely accepted as the most haunted house in Australia. One that has chilled even most hardened of ghost hunters. Junee is a small town, not at all out of the ordinary, except that one of its homes, Monte Cristo, has some terrible tales to tell, including murder, torture and suicide. The elegant two-storey house, built in 1884, looks from the outside like a dream home. Yet ever since its first residents, the Crawley family, moved in, one tragedy has followed another. First, their young baby daughter died after being dropped by her nanny down the stairs. This was no ordinary accident. The nanny claimed that an unseen force pushed the baby out of her arms. Today, young children visiting the house often become very agitated and scared around that staircase, as if a dying child was reaching out to them. As if that wasn't tragic enough, when one of the Crawleys' maids became pregnant, she was so desperate that she jumped to her death from the balcony that runs along the front of the house. A ghostly apparition of a young woman in 19th century clothes has often been seen gliding along this balcony, and although the blood-stained steps below have been scrubbed over and over again, the stain cannot be removed. The third ghostly figure to appear at Monte Cristo is that of a young boy, a stable hand named Morris. He would sleep in the stables, but one day he was too ill to get up for work. Believing he was faking illness, his boss set fire to his bedding. Poor Morris was not faking it, and he could not get up. He was burned alive where he lay. The ghost of this tormented soul has often been seen by the coach house. Mrs. Crawley died in the house in 1933. She too is often seen patrolling her old home. She seems to take some of the guests who visit the house and makes her feelings known. Chillingly, she has been known to order people out of the dining room or the chapel, and after her appearance they are all too ready to leave. The Ryan family moved in 1963 and lived there still. Mr. Ryan is surprisingly comfortable with his new home. Extra guests and opens Monte Cristo to visitors. They are invited to spend the night in the house, but most do not last the night. Feelings of misery and dread overwhelm them. They hear footsteps and see visions, and they flee this place of tormented souls. Now I have enough time to do at least one or two more pages. The House of Death, New York. Now this is a quote by Mark Twain. Courage is resistance to fear. Mastery of fear, not absence of fear. Now, American writer Mark Twain, 1835 till 1910, quote. Now, this is of Mark Twain. It says, Mark Twain, pictured in 1907 wearing the white suit he has been spotted in. It appears that he and others have been unable to leave this brownstone house in New York. The gloomy 14 West 10th Street in Greenwich Village neighborhood of Manhattan, New York City. Now, best read this. New York is a dynamic, fast-paced city, not the kind of place you associate with hauntings and the paranormal. Yet in this city that never sleeps, it seems the spirits of some of its past residents cannot find rest. The house 14 West 10th Street is the last unresting place of an extraordinary and chilling 22 ghosts. This impressive house, now known as the House of Death, is a classic New York brownstone built in the 1850s in Lower Manhattan. It was home to many of the city's elites until in 1900, a novelist moved in called Samuel Clemens. He was better known by his writing name, Mark Twain. Although he only stayed for a year, he certainly left his mark on the house. His restless spirit has been seen wandering through the first floor in the white suit. In the 1930s, a mother and daughter said they saw him sitting by the window where he told them, "My name is Clemens, and I has a problem here I gotta settle," before he vanished into thin air. There are more unsettled spirits here. Ghost hunters and investigators galore have visited the house, and many have sensed the presence of a ghostly lady in white, as well as a grey cat. Who knows what sorrowful stories these spirits could have to tell if they could speak to us. Sadly, we know too well the story behind the ghost of a young girl that haunts this creepy house. The house was converted into apartments in the 1930s, and in the 1987, a lawyer named Joel Steinberg was living in one of them on the second floor. With him was his 6-year-old illegally adopted daughter Lisa and a baby. One November night, the police received a call from the apartment about a child who was not breathing. When they broke in, they found Lisa unconscious and the baby covered in filth and chained to a playpen. The baby survived this terrible treatment, but Lisa tragically died. Joel Steinberg was imprisoned, but it seems poor Lisa has never been quite able to leave the scene of the crime. Now, I don't think I have enough time to do another page. So this is the next place that we're going to read about, Hinton Ampner, the UK. I know I'm being quick, and I'm sorry if you can't understand because I'm being really quick. It's just because of the fact that obviously I'm wanting to be able to get as many pages in as possible. Wait, how many pages have I done? Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I've done about the same amount as yesterday in a short amount of time. Now, as I said, you'll need to start getting used to the camera not facing me until we finish this book, and then when we start the next book, which will be this book, Paranormal Northeast True Ghost Stories, we'll be going on to that in when we've finished the book that we're on. Now, I think I best say bye for this video. We'll get it published on time instead of it being too late, for it is not even 10 o'clock. Oh my god, being sent up to bed, and it's the holidays. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that I get this uploaded. So, bye for now. See you in the next video, and have a great day and a good night's sleep, obviously. Bye.